This is my mum, aka Nikki Stevenson, and before 2020 she hadn't even touched a bike. The closest thing to this was probably holding mine in a transition before a race. She'd never ridden on the road, she'd never ridden off-road quite frankly, and she certainly didn't know how to use clipping pedals or anything like that. So this was completely out of her comfort zone. However, she decided she wanted to get good at cycling. I think she'd seen us do it for long enough and was like, right, that's it, I'm getting in the game. And within this period of time, she's made some incredibly great gains, all through hard work, all from following a pretty decent training plan and keeping consistent over this period of time. But I thought I'd break down what she's done, the improvements she's made, and the beast that she's turned into on the bike. So the stats. I thought I'd break this down so you had a pretty decent idea of what she's done and where she's currently at. So, all-time stats are as follows. She's done 812 bike rides. Not bad over a 3-year period. 10 out of 10 from that point of view and for the dedication. The distance, she cycled 19,559 kilometres. What the actual hell? Pretty insane, with a total elevation gained of 146,006 metres. Well over Everesting. In fact, she's Everested probably over 12 times. Pretty incredible. Her longest ride has been 129 kilometres, and her biggest climb has been 468 metres. And this has all been on her bike, the Trek Betty. Yes, what an incredible name, and yes, she has named her bike. As my mum started to be in the cycle world for a longer time, she started to go longer distances, hold higher powers, just generally become a better cyclist in the whole. Well, how did she do this? That is a great question. Initially, she started off by riding 3 times a week. For the first few weeks, it was just about getting the feel on the bike, enjoying it, getting in the mojo of things, just getting her legs, her body, her joints, ligaments, knees, feet, the whole shebang used to that motion of cycling. Bearing in mind she'd never done this previously, so it was all about acclimatizing the body to this type of stress. After 2 months of just building that base, so to speak, a very small base in the whole scheme of things, but a base big enough to actually start proper training, she then did 3 rides per week, and they consisted as follows. A long, easy endurance ride, which was an hour. Bearing in mind, 4 or 5 weeks before this point, she wasn't even able to cycle for 15-20 minutes. That was hard for her. Her heart rate would be skyrocketing, her legs would be burning. On top of this, she did then 2 interval rides. She was doing a threshold ride and then just a race on Zwift, which was equivalent in my eyes as a VO2 max session. So the race itself was obviously very up and down in terms of power, and it was more just about enjoyment and just getting a good workout in. And then the threshold session was structured, and that was something just like 3 or 4 minutes at threshold, repeated about 10 times. It wasn't something sort of extraordinary, but it was enough to sort of see that sort of progression in the legs. Oh, I did forget to say actually that she did start off with an FTP of 96 watts. This was 6 weeks after she did start training. The only reason she waited that long period of time was so, like I said, her legs could get used to actually working out. You know, if she can't even cycle 15 minutes, there's no point doing an FTP test. It defeats the purpose of it. It's a bit like saying, I'm gonna learn to dive, but I can't swim. Do you get the sort of mojo that I'm saying here? Learn the basics, then begin to progress. During this 3-year period, as time went on, she obviously got more and more serious. The level of training that she was doing was obviously increasing. By month 6, she was doing 4 to 5 rides a week, and by a year, she was pretty much cycling every day, having a rest day every now and then. So obviously the volume was increasing, the amount of kilometerage she was doing was increasing, and her FTP in turn went up with this. Month 6 came along and she was doing 4-ish rides a week. What did they consist of? So at this point in time, she structured her training with a race, basically a VO2 max session, a long, easy ride, an easy, shorter spin, and then a interval session at sort of threshold. Why was it structured like this? Well, firstly, the race was in there for enjoyment and for building that top-end power, basically getting you to push harder and raise sort of your top-end VO2 max. Why is the long ride in there? Well, the long ride was in there just to build that endurance base, and she got to a point where she was doing the Uber Pretzel on Zwift. This is a long, long day out, and she was on the bike, I think, for around 8 hours. Pretty insane, I know. Then she had a easy ride. Why was she doing this? This was just to flush the legs out. Again, build a good aerobic base and to recover, and then you've got that sort of top-end threshold session. This was to build power on the bike and to build the ability to push power for longer distances and for longer periods of time. Now, as her cycling journey went on, The length of intervals for that threshold session increased. The length of time for that threshold session increased. And this was pretty much the same across the board. She did more races, she did longer endurance rides, and she did longer recovery rides. This is just a natural evolution of progression in cycling. As your body gets more used to it, you can do more. And this was done in a very progressive way, so it wasn't overloaded too quickly. That often leads to injury, it often leads to inconsistencies, and you're not going to get that consistency that you want. So this was super important for her. Stay consistent, bosh the training, and see this progression. Now, when you look back over this period of time in which she was training, her progression was pretty decent. As I was saying, 2020, she started off with an FTP of 96 watts, and this peaked in 2022 with an FTP of 161. It's now down to 159, mainly due to just a lack of structure and her just enjoying it a little bit more. But in that 2-year period, her FTP practically doubled. She went from somebody who couldn't even sit on a bike without falling off it, didn't feel comfortable, didn't feel like she belonged there, to now feeling like, you know what, she's in the cycling world. She's happy, she's comfortable, and she's got a pretty good goddamn FTP, where sometimes she's winning Category C races. With this, obviously her fitness has improved. She's lost weight, she's sort of healthier mentally and physically, and I think it's just given her an absolute purpose in the cycling world. I was going to do this video with her, I did actually film one with her, but then it didn't flow very well, so I just thought I would do an overview of this. If you've got questions, drop them down below. I'll get my mum to answer them. If you want to do another video with my mum, let me know, because I'm sure if there's a lot of comments saying, yeah, bring Nikki back in, yeah, she'll happily come and do that. I just think she wasn't as comfortable sitting in front of the camera. Fair enough, cool. Come on, bring on those support, guys. Drop a well done Nikki down below in the comments. And yeah, maybe we'll be able to drag her onto this channel and have a little bit more footage. Anyway, let me know what you think. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.